And like, what do you do when you come across people that feel hurt by the church? And then that video you sent me this video of these like Christians.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You got to talk about that.
Yeah. It's like a video of like Christians arguing back and forth about whether being gay, like you could be Christian and gay or whatever. Like, so you're on the street.
But you don't identify as Christian. Last time we talked, right?
So my issue with Christianity, I think there's a lot of arguing that I just can't be bothered with. I think I've decided that. Like I just kind of, I just don't think it matters. I feel like it's a lot of noise. And I think that right now people need love and like true divine intervention. And
welcome to Loving Kindness Every Day, where you will hear everyday language such as 4-letter, 5-letter, or words that your mother might call profanity. Please be advised.
And like true divine intervention. And my life has taught me that God doesn't really give a fuck if I'm gay or not. Really, truly. I can talk to you about my personal experiences and I'll do that all day, no problem. At the end of the day, the critics will go, well, that's your personal experience, but my God says you're going to hell. And I'm like, okay, that's great for you and your God and how you guys feel about that. But like, how is that helping anybody right now? Like, I guess that's just my thing. It's like what do you say to people? Like, what are you saying to these kids in Georgia State? Well, like, you've never come across any of that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to tackle the video? You want to tee that up too, because I think it's an interesting conversation, but maybe we can do.
So I will tell you the truth. I listened to like a good 65% of it.
Okay.
And it was like, I'm not sure the people. Do you know the people?
Yeah, I know people. Sean McDowell was the Christian evangelical with another evan word. Christian conservative, and then we had the gay Christian, self-identified, Brandon, I don't remember his last name.
Got it.
But I just thought from that perspective, I know that since labels don't matter for you personally, for him specifically it mattered because he wanted to integrate his specific. So I was curious if you think that was like important or not important, or like.
I think it's important to a lot of people, and because it's important to a lot of people, it's important to me in that sense. Because I understand that the people are hurting. Yeah. For me personally, like I said, I feel like I've checked out of it. Like I've washed my hands of it. Like I just think whatever you guys want to argue amongst yourselves, that's fine. But I think that for a lot of people, that matters. Like for me, when I was 16, 17, it was a big deal. You know, like it was basically the reason that I got kicked out of my house and I joined the army. Because it was like, can't be a lesbian and live here and all this kind of stuff. And so it's like, you know, I feel like now, over 20 years later, I suppose I empathize with my mom, even though she was the one that was like, dare you say, like, could have been like the bad guy, quote unquote, in that situation. But I feel like all she was doing was listening to the voices. She was listening to the people who told her, like, this is what love is of God. Like, this is what God's love looks like. This is like, this is what you need to do, you know, like. And I think that because we have so many people who listen to these voices, that's the part that matters. It's the hearts that matter, it's the minds, it's the freaking 17, 18, 15, 16-year-old kids who are like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Blah, blah, blah. Like Andy Stanley got up there and said, and they pray and it doesn't change.
You mean like pray the
yeah, he did this whole thing. Away. I don't know, did you hear about that thing? Like, whatever. There's a whole, like, unconditional conference that they did at his church.
That was like
2023.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
A while ago. Yeah. But he did this sermon afterwards where he kept saying that. And he was just like, they pray and they pray. They pray to God.
What are they praying for?
Just for the gay to go away.
Gay.
Just please,
pray the
Jesus,
gay away.
Help the gay to go away. I just want to be normal. You know, whatever that looks like.
Well, I understand Christians that identify homosexual and they're abstinent, so they don't have any.
Side B Christians, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Side B, yeah, that's right. I forget about those.
Yeah, they deserve respect, you know, because they're walking out their faith in the way that they feel is authentic to them. I don't necessarily feel like it's a sustainable lifestyle to promote and say, oh, well, if you're gay, just be abstinent. Because that's just like saying, oh, well, David, if you happen to like Indian women, just be abstinent because you shouldn't like those types of women. You should only like this type of women or whatever. You like women with brown eyes, just be abstinent.
Blue-eyed.
Only the blue-eyed girls for you, sir.
Yeah.
You know, it's silly. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
Well, we do that as heteros. So for the homosexual and the heterosexual, we still have the same challenge. If you're walking that Christian fine line of morality, if you're walking that walk, right, of sexual abstinence, it cuts both ways for heterosexual male and homosexual, right? It's the same problem.
You're saying in the sense of like being celibate until you're married?
Exactly, yeah.
That is a Christian, that is a Christian sort of like tenet that I know is a big, it's got a big basis in Paul and what Paul thinks are things that you should do with your body and such like that, as well as, listen, all right, I'm gonna say this, for myself, I can't say that I am a big proponent of staying celibate until you get married. I can't say that I ever have thought that that was a really great thing on either side. I know that that is a debatable Christian sort of stance, and I recognize that for myself, and that's me. Myself, I would go on maybe self-imposed celibacy, but that wasn't because I felt like God didn't want me to be gay, or God didn't want me to have sex outside of marriage. It was more just like, I don't know, like the word Paul to say, you know, you'll be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so sometimes you just wake up and your mind goes, you know, hey, David, like, you've eaten enough Snickers. Maybe we'll just eat less of those. Because, you know, you just, that's what you
full
should.
and you're gaining some weight, maybe.
You know, you're just,
temples or whatever.
Whatever. You know, you just know. You just know. You don't need your pastor going, don't eat too much and be a... I knew this one girl, she told me she was in a Bible study where literally they made her go out on Halloween with a shirt that said, gluttony is a sin, because she's quite a heavy-set girl. Because they were shaming her, like, with the Bible, to, like, not eat the Snickers. And it's like, I don't feel like that. Oh, this is what I mean. It's like, it's not necessary.
That's awful.
It's actually awful. It's just as awful as telling gay people not to have sex. Or telling anybody, like, God's gonna think you're a sinner just because you went and had sex with your girlfriend or whatever. I just don't believe that. I don't think you're going to hell.
Yeah, I guess that my point was just that it's an issue for both, you know, both sides. So, but they're choosing to do it. I guess if it sounds like these B-side Christians are like, since I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, as it were, of like not doing sex before marriage or abstaining. I'm saying for both sides it's an issue. So, do you think there's any? Let me ask you a question though. Do you think there's any benefit to? Even though I understand you don't believe in it, but I'm honing in on the verse that Paul talks about where you have intercourse with like a prostitute, and then you become one. So you're two people. Do you think there's anything to that?
Okay, wait. I want to step back just for a second because I feel like maybe things got terribly confused with the side B thing.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we're on the same page. That side B Christians believe. It's not about sex before marriage, it's about we don't get married, we don't act on our gay inclinations at all. They have a life of celibacy. Not just celibacy till marriage, it's always celibacy.
Right. But I was just trying to say, up until marriage, we share that same sacrifice, if you will, right? Or abstinence or whatever.
Yes, then I go back to my long-winded.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that
exactly
sharing thing. But yes, okay. So to answer your question directly, do I think that there is a spiritual value in abstinence until marriage?
Yeah, given the verses that Paul talked about, your favorite theologian guy.
It's just, Paul's not God, but that's the whole thing. It's just, that's all. That's all. That's my only thing. Let's look it up, because oh wait, I brought my Bible. Do you know the verse?
Oh, yeah. This one should be Corinthians, but of course I go to the Google Mobile and it'll direct me right to it.
I don't have a concordance in this Bible.
Do not
It's
go.
my pocket Bible.
No.
It's the size of a smart book, for anyone who knows what that is.
I do like those because they're so portable, but I can't. As you get older, your eyes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm like Moses. I got old and my eyes didn't go dim.
Nice.
Thank you.
Wait, I thought Moses wasn't he the one with the eye problem, or
No, that's what I said.
was it Aaron?
He got old and his eyes didn't grow dim. Now you're gonna make me Google myself
Yeah.
and fact check. But I'm almost positive. I'm very positive. Now you're
I
making me
think
think.
Paul had issues with his eyes. I think he was one. Because he didn't write. Some people argue he didn't write some of the
Yes,
epistles. Right?
Deuteronomy 37:7 says, his eyes was not dim, nor his natural force abated. That means Moses' eyesight was clear and was still strong when he died at the age of 120.
It's an interesting
Yes, just like me.
characteristic. Look at you. No glasses.
Old, no glasses.
cataracts, no.
My eyes, no dim.
1 Corinthians 6:1.
Thank you.
6.
6. 1 Corinthians 6. We're going here? That's an
6.
interesting place that we ended up. Because I think, isn't 6:9? Yeah. 6:9 is where we go with the homosexual thing. Wait, so we're going 6.
Right?
6 what?
We go with the, yeah, let's see.
6.
6:1,6.
6:1. If any of you has a dispute with another, do you dare take it before the ungodly for judgment instead of before the Lord's people? That can't be right. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 1. That's what I just read you.
Wait.
If any of you has a dispute with another, do you dare take it before the ungodly for judgment instead of before the Lord's
Let's
people?
go to let's just go to 1 Corinthians 6 and then we'll drill down in there. Sorry, just gonna take me a second to pull it up.
Oh, is it 15? Do you know that your bodies are members of Christ himself?
Yeah.
Then shall I take the members of Christ and unite them with the prostitute? Never. Yeah, but see, this is like, I love this, like, I love Paul. We can't take Paul out of context. Like, what are we talking about here? So this goes back to even like the fact that people mistranslated this as homosexual. Like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about like people being sexual deviants. We're talking about a lot of like really nasty things that were happening in Rome that I agree with Paul. I don't agree with the translation that says homosexual because that's not correct. That's not what he was talking about. He's literally talking about pedophiles and people like, I mean, I don't know any today's references, but when I was a kid, it was Jimmy Rice. Growing up in
Jimmy Rice.
Do you know that?
No, I haven't heard of that.
That's like 1990s Miami. This boy got taken by some guy and chopped into pieces and mutilated and did all the nasty things that you could do to a child that we all go, stay away from strangers because they could do these things to you.
Yeah.
All those things happened to him. And it was like, everybody's like, don't let that happen to you, you know, this kind of situation. And like, these are the things that he's talking about. He's even talking about temple prostitution, which is where people like you maybe go and get married to a woman and you want to have a bunch of kids, so you go and you steal the manlyhood of another man by using like ritual sacrifices and having sex with him to like steal his manhood and then impregnate your wife with it. Yeah. Like temple prostitution, these are the things that Asherah poles were put up for. Like, this is like...
Yeah, it's talking about in general fleeings, but Paul's saying these are the things that I want you to like stay away from. Like,
yeah, you should.
Yeah.
I agree with Paul. But I just don't think the people, modern day Christians, understand what the heck Paul's talking about. I don't think, no offense, David, I don't think you know what the heck Paul's talking about when he's talking about this.
Right.
No offense.
Because of the translation where you're saying it was not homosexuality, but all sexuality.
We're not even going to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
We'll just talk about this word. We should look it up with prostitutes. Yeah. Why is he talking about prostitutes? Just because, you know, like, that's what you go to church on Sunday and we listen to, like, I don't know, your neighborhood church pastor just gotta lecture you about the dangers of prostitution. I mean, come on, bro. Like that. What
Well,
he's
it was a
talking
big
about.
thing. Yeah, it was a big problem in
Why?
that area, right?
Why was it a big problem?
Well, there was no laws against it, right?
It was a spiritual issue. It was a spiritual issue that is talked about throughout the entire Bible. It's talked about so much that it's like, why are we missing the spiritual issue? These people are using sex as a spiritual tool to better themselves. He talks about it in Romans 1. He's literally, why is he talking about prostitutes and man shall not lie with man? Oh, okay, let me take a deep breath.
I think he's just using this as an example, right? He's not saying just prostitutes, right? He's not saying, because that would mean that you can just have sex, as long as it's not a prostitute, then you're okay.
Why, David? But why are we saying that? Let's look it up in the original language. Like, why are you saying that? Why are you just taking something out of context and going, well, no, this is what Paul meant? Why? Why would Paul not be specifically talking to the church at Corinth about a Corinth issue? That's what is happening in this text.
Well, if we look at, we can read more of it just to get an idea.
I think we should read.
Because you can read from 15
6.
or 12 or...
I just really enjoy the Bible Hub. Bible Hub gives us... Sorry, I'm getting very excited. I get excited about this because it's just like... calm down.
Yeah.
I'm trying to calm down. All right.
Somehow
it's
we
just
hit...
because
Somehow
of the
we
Greek.
hit... We
it's
hit
the Greek.
We hit a
it's
nerve.
the Greek
yeah.
for me. It's because like... All right. So we're gonna just go straight to the Bible Hub. This isn't anything special. We can read this together on BibleHub.com.
Are you reading Greek? Because I've got a...
Yeah, we're gonna read the
I've
Greek.
got a,
the Greek word for word transliteration of this. Do you not know that your bodies? We're gonna look for the word prostitute. Prostitute, porneia. Could be saying that wrong. Strong's word number 4204. A prostitute meant an idolatrous community. So we're starting with, again, idolatry.
Right.
We have to each time talk about context, about what's happening, who Paul's talking to each time. We can't assume that Paul is God talking to us, you and me, David, right now, about modern day prostitution and about your body in a modern day world. Paul is talking to the church at Corinth about a Corinth issue which was going on there in that time and had been going on for centuries in the biblical community, and that he was condemning.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Right.
Prostitution for idolatry. The same thing that we hear about the Asherah poles, we hear about Moloch, we hear about these same things throughout the Bible.
So you're making an idol of a person's body, right?
No, you're
What's the
so for example, it's not an analogy, it's an actuality. What was actually happening was that in the ancient world, people were doing ritual prostitution. Ritual prostitution is about using your body to, again, like I was explaining to you, if you're trying to do a fertility treatment for yourself, you use a prostitute to take their manhood. It's not about you lusting against another man. You're probably not even into it at all. You're doing it to serve the God so that the God can be satisfied with you and that you can fill your loins with his manhood and go forward. It's about taking the power from the Spirit, the God. When Jesus says God is Spirit, wants to be worshipped in spirit and truth, it's about taking it and putting it in statues and figures and rituals and idolatry.
Are you getting all of that from this text?
Well, yes, from knowing. I'm not reading, for example, 1 Corinthians 6:15 out of context and gathering all of that. I'm gathering that from years of knowledge and reading and understanding what Paul's talking to and what was going on in Corinth. Why is this called 1 Corinthians? He's not talking to us in Atlanta. He's talking to the church in Corinth. Why? He's talking about specific issues.
Right,
he's lecturing them about what's going on.
But that's what they had. They had a problem with sexual immorality.
With ritual prostitution, yes. Due to idolatry, yes. These are the words in Greek and why he's saying these things. He's specifically, it is a feminine of pronouns, a strumpet, figuratively, an idolater.
Okay.
The word is synonymous with an idolator.
So I still don't get the point. So is he saying it's good, it's okay because it's idolatrous, or it's bad, or it's just these are the only people that are doing it, it's not applicable today? You don't think it's idolatry happening in the current context of 2000
I mean,
25.
Let's talk about Kendrick Lamar's freaking song, They're Not Like Us. That's literally what he's talking about.
I don't know.
He's talking about freaking pedophilia and prostitution. Yes, it's ritual prostitution is still going on. I don't want to get into
I agree. I'm sure that is, but I'm saying in general, that's not the only type of porneia or, only type of sexual immorality, right?
I feel like we're having two different conversations. I feel like I'm talking about what Paul is talking about here in the text. And I feel like what you're talking about is how we can take what Paul said that back then and supplant it into understanding our life right now, each time.
Right.
And I think that in order to do that, you should read the entire letter, both letters, in context, and understand what was going on historically in that period. And then make a decision for yourself on how to apply.
With the Corinthian church.
Yes, because he's talking to the church of Corinth.
Right, exactly.
But also you have to understand that, let's say this, okay, just for argument's sake. Let's say that somebody came to talk to us here in America about the state and how they feel about race relations. We have to, as Americans, take their message with a lot of history, right? Because we know it, these are things that we live, these things we know. We don't need them to come and give us 25 minutes of a history lesson and then tell us how they feel. We know how they feel because they can tell us. And we understand it because we're living in context of America. Mm-hmm. The people at Corinth didn't need a lecture on their history about what was going on and why he's saying to them not to have sex with the ritual prostitutes and to go and do all these things because it's not godly. We need that because we weren't living there and we don't understand those things. We've been so long removed. We've taken this and we've called it God's word and we've said this is what Jesus said.
Right. So
that's not what's happening.
So Paul is writing to this church. What do you think God intends for us in present day when we read this? What are we supposed to take from it? Because the Bible is for us.
That's
right?
it.
If you were a Christian believer, this book is for you.
That is a personal and that is a deeply personal thing that I think that every person who proclaims to want to have a relationship with the Creator the way that Jesus told us to needs to take to themselves in truth. Which means, can you take an ancient text and a sacred text that you don't understand, written to people that you don't understand what their lives were like, and just pull and pick things out to put them in your life? Or must you be an intelligent human being and take context like God created you to have in your prefrontal cortex?
No, I totally agree with that.
Well, hang on. I'm just saying, to answer your question, this is what I feel like God wants us to do.
Yeah.
Literally. Which is to take it and to review it and to understand it and to allow it to transform us and our minds and our hearts and our spirit for ourselves. Not to take it and to arm ourselves with things that we can point at other people and go, see, you need to do this and you need to do that, you need to do that. All those things that you think other people need to do, just do them to yourself. That's what I think God wants us to do with these texts.
Yeah, and I didn't plan on us doing the study, so I didn't do all the contextual look up on the verse. I just pulled it out because I was curious what you thought, because it came up. And I understand if we want to do a Bible study, I'm happy to go in and do the work and dig into it, because I think context, I'm agreeing, is hugely important. People read Bible verses out of context all the time, and like you said, they'll use it as a weapon. I don't think that's right either.
Okay. Let's just be real.
Right?
We shouldn't have to prepare, right, for a conversation. Because, it matters, but sure. We could go and do a Bible study, sure. But, at the same time, David, isn't the point of it for us to grow, together and to, understand together? And so, my issue, or whatever, is the fact that, this is just... We started with this whole question of, do you call yourself a Christian? This is why I can't call myself a Christian in that sense, where it's I don't believe that the religion, maybe, or the culture, I don't know, I don't want to say anything bad about the wrong people, but I'm going to say this. I think I'm okay in saying that I don't think our culture, the Christian culture, pushes the idea of serving God in spirit and in truth. And what that means is really, like, for you yourself, if you want to discover how God feels about premarital sex, for example, to pray to your God and ask God to show you, to pull out the scriptures, to read it, to understand what you're reading, to pull up your Bible Hub or whatever, your concordance, and actually look at it. Oh no! See, this is my thing. So see, or go to your church and just let your pastor teach you.
No.
See, I can't. That's the thing.
No, I'm saying it's a culmination, right? You don't do anything in isolation. You could read your Bible in isolation and come up with a completely wrong context, potentially, right? And people do that all the time.
I don't know.
Would you? In isolation, that could be problematic. People. That's how they create whole new religions, right? I take something out of context, which I'm completely agreeing with you, which is super important. But I think it's a constellation of things, right? If I read something, I get confirmation from somebody else. I get confirmation from theologians down through history. I get confirmation through pastors that are teaching me, right, certain things. That to me gives reinforcement to a particular view. I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying that particular view has merit based on the confirmation that I'm getting. And I'm getting confirmation from the Holy Spirit.
I think you can tell a tree by its fruit. I think that you can tell a tree by its fruit. And I think that sometimes you can go and you can have Tom, Dick, and Mary called Pastor such and such and Pastor Tom and Pastor Mary, and I don't really give a blank about what their titles are. They can confirm the wrong thing for you 10 times over. I don't necessarily think that that's indicative of, to answer again your question of what does God want us to do with the text, I don't think that's indicative of what we should be doing with this text. Like you said, the Bible is for Christians and all this kind of stuff, but like, what is the Bible? Where did it come from? Do you even know like where most of these stories came from, or how even the book came together, or like what this is like? And so then if you start saying things like, well, I'm going to begin to understand context for bigger things like we were talking about, like premarital sex. I mean, we don't really hear very often when Jesus condemns a man and says that if you divorce your wife, you're committing adultery, and so is she. We hear lots of Christians get remarried, no big deal. But Jesus was very firm on that. But we don't talk about that.
Yeah, for those that, if she left you because of sexual immorality, and Paul later goes on to add abandonment, if you were abandoned and or sexually immoral. I'm just adding a little more context in there, right? Sorry,
I'm smiling at David because we're adding in. Okay. My point is this.
And that's not your point because you're making. Let's go back to your original point, though.
My only point is even what you're saying. No, even in what you're saying, because it goes to my point. Even in what you're saying about how Paul added in abandon, we're taking something that Jesus said, and then we're just picking and choosing that, and we're gonna throw it together with what Paul said to like serve our purpose. And that's my point. It goes back to the same thing about 1 Corinthians 6:15. You're pulling things out to serve a purpose, to serve a quote-unquote culture of a community, when really like we're missing the heart of the point of the whole book.
Which is what? In terms of like divorce. In terms of adultery, right? Because if you think about it in a bigger picture, right, God sees us as his bride.
Being loving. But if you were loving, you wouldn't be doing these things to your husband or your wife.
Exactly.
Or your son or your daughter or your companion.
Doing what thing?
The things that would cause divorce.
Well, exactly. But we all know that even in Christian marriages, right, over 50% result in divorce. Why?
So was Christianity working for them?
Because of sin. We know that.
Because of sin.
Of course it's sin. We know the world is...
So if sin is so bad, then why can't God save you? Why be a Christian if 50% of your marriage is like everybody else's marriages end up in divorce? Then what's the point?
The point of what, getting married or becoming a Christian?
The Christian thing. Because everybody's out here getting married. Yeah. It's almost like what Jesus said. How different is it how different are we as Christians? But if we're going to throw the whole Christian thing, how different are we as Christians from the non-Christians if 50% of our marriages end up in divorce? Clearly, this shit's not working. That's all I'm saying. Excuse my French, but it's not working clearly. And are these the divinely ordained Christians? These are the ones that we've given them all the rules.
Yeah.
And they did all the things right.
But you were talking about, since we got on marriage, you're asking for bigger context, right? Like, okay, let's not find verses to figure out how to get out of divorce or get out of like remarrying, whatever it is, right?
Why are we getting out of things?
Making excuses.
Why? That's my thing. It's the whole excuse making. It's the whole why are we doing this?
But the importance of marriage in general, which kind of goes to we're going to kind of come back to full circle, right? Because that was what we were saying, sex before, and then the whole thing. God believes we are the bride of Christ, right? And someday He's coming back. I'm telling this for the listeners because you know all this.
I want to laugh
already, but that's how He sees us. That's the analogy. So it's huge. To your point, it's hugely important for us to stay together if we're going to be married. It's a huge deal.
It's not working, David. Is it? Am I missing something? It's not working.
But why isn't it working? Why would you say it's not working?
I think because it's not about the heart. I think this is all bullshit. I've done a lot of swearing, y'all, and I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry because I think it's bullshit. I feel like Jesus in the temple just wanted to tear it down. Like, it's just a bunch of picking and choosing Bible verses so we can make points with each other. But the point is to be freaking loving. Like, why can't we just be loving towards each other and do like what Jesus actually said to do on the Sermon on the Mount? Or we just forget all about that and just create a Christian culture that pulls a bit of Paul, pulls a bit of Jesus, pulls a bit of this, that together and goes, yeah, these are the tenets to follow. This is how you have a really successful life. And then it doesn't even work. And then it still 50% of the time ends up in trash when you could just not do any of that crap and still end up 50% of the time in the trash. So then my thing is, I guess I'm still going back to my point in the beginning, which was like, are you out here like evangelizing to people? Like, how are you getting people to listen to this? And are they really like wanting to do this?
You'll hear more of our conversation between David and I soon enough. For now, I'm going to leave you with Senator Jasmine Crockett. I was blessed to be able to speak with her and meet her, and I want to share with you a short clip of something she said about Christianity, which really resonated with me. This was before the election, so she's also trying to encourage people to go out and vote. You'll hear a little bit of that too, but
when it comes to being able to adopt, they want to go after that because again, they're trying to impose this ideal of Christianity, which I have argued that their God is not my God. Their God is the one that somehow justified slavery back in the day, because that's what they did with Christianity then. And so if you can think back to the time when people had to hide in the closet for fear of whether or not it was, right now, healthcare is a real deal. When you were talking about being married, there was a time in which partners were not able to cover their partners on their healthcare. I mean, all these things, they want to roll them back, and as far as I'm concerned, institute more discrimination on people. They really hate pronouns. I never saw people that hated pronouns. But it's all the things, right? So, if I could say, just like when I'm talking to black folk, I'm like, they want to take us back to Jim Crow, right? They want to take us back to a time when the idea of loving whoever it is that you love without being discriminated against, they want to get rid of that. You've seen the attacks on drag queens. I think that was a part of Project 2025 as well. It's all this nonsense. It's just attacking people just to attack them.
I want you to know that whether you agree with me or not, whether you think I am, a sinner and going to hell, or if you think I'm a saint, I don't really think that matters. I don't think it matters what anybody thinks about me or what anybody thinks about you. It matters what you think about you. and how you feel about you. And I'm going to say this instead. It matters how you feel about you. And how you treat yourself. I really, really do. I really appreciate you for trying to do the best thing that you know how to do every day. You're not perfect. None of us are. But you're trying, and I appreciate that a lot. We're going to talk soon. Take a really deep breath and know that you're loved. I want you to know that no matter what's going on in your journey, on your life right now, today, you're loved and accepted. I'm here for you. You're here for you. We're here for each other, right? Anyway, I'm gonna leave you with this last little
Posting
bit.
more.
Okay.
Somehow Andy Stanley keeps coming up.
Speaking of Andy Stanley, I just posted an episode about him. And you should listen to it. The connection between the creation of 1946, the movie, which discusses the mistranslation of the Bible. So I think you'd find it very interesting.
I've heard actually that Sean McDowell, I think he did a talk on that, on the 1946, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have to
So we're
check
gonna take
that
a
out.
break
Yeah.
for March, and we're gonna do mantras. March is our manifestation month.